don't even really like I don't like the Beatles. I'm not a fan of the Beatles, and you're kind of supposed to be as a white person. They're sort of like our beacon of hope, you know? You're supposed to see the fucking Abbey Road poster and just salute it and be like, you're gonna make it across today, boys. I'm not a fan of the Beatles, and I tell people that sometimes, and it's like, people get real upset, because there's no racial slur to hurt white people, right? But if you ever walk into a party and you say the Beatles suck, white people will drop their pretzels and just freak, just look at you and be like, what did you just say? I could walk into a party and be like, you know what, I don't think I like Chinese people. And everybody like, well, that's a free thinker right there, you know? Living his own life, he's clearly come to a decision. I say I don't like the Beatles. People are like, all of it, Abbey Road, everything, and they start naming songs. I'm like, yeah, those too, you know? I just think it's funny that every once in a while there's a big debate. People go, let's figure this out once and for all. Who was better, the Beatles or the Stones? One of those bands is still here. That's the better band. If you bought 2 toasters in the 60s, and one of them worked for a while, and then stopped, and the other toaster was still out there, toasting the hits night after night. It just went back on a 35-city toasting tour. It's the better fucking toaster. The idea that people even try to break that down is so offensive anyway, because the Stones are still here. And they're old and they can hear you. You know how offensive that is? You know how hard it must be for the Stones to perform? You know how hard it must be for Mick Jagger to climb that raggedy fucking 68 pounds of dust onto a stage? You know how many cortisone shots he's got to get into his hip? Do you know how many goats need to be sacrificed to get Keith Richards out of a chair, let alone up onto a stage with a fucking guitar? And then they perform for 3 hours and somebody will come up to them like, you know, I always thought the Beatles are better than you. Good. Did they get a blood transfusion or perform tonight? I don't think so. I should have died in 88, 92, an hour ago. Get the fuck out of my face. I have been 70 pounds since 1979. I'm a wizard. Leave me alone. And it's just like, I also think it's kind of crazy that, like, you're supposed to, this has just always been weird to me about the Beatles, right? Is that people love the Beatles. People really hate performance-enhancing drugs. Hate them, hate them, hate them. Lance Armstrong's a bag of shit. Absolute criminal piece of garbage, you know? Performance-enhancing drugs. The Beatles wrote all of their music on acid. If you make millions of dollars on acid, is acid not a performance-enhancing drug? And what's harder to do? Take acid and play the guitar with your friends, or ride a fucking bike. Uphill, downhill for hours and hours with one ball. Do we forget that Lance had one ball? The Beatles had all 8 of their stupid balls. Lance is a loser. Somebody told me once that I should respect the Beatles, though, because when they debuted in 1964, 75 million people watched. And I'm like, why is that a stat I gotta care about? It was 1964. What else was there to watch, you know? There was no Scientology documentaries. There's no kitchen nightmares. There was fucking 2 channels. One of them was Snow, the other one was the Beatles. That was what you watched that night, or you looked outside and you hoped for the future. That was it. If anything else had aired that night, nobody would have saw the Beatles. If the last episode of Breaking Bad had aired the same night that the Beatles debuted, nobody would have saw the Beatles. The next day, somebody would be like, "Do you hear that song, I Want to Hold Your Hand?" Somebody, are you a fucking idiot? Walter White killed everybody. You missed that?